Thank you, everybody, for coming. This is Glenn Lyvers with Prolific Press. This is our August poetry reading, and we're here with a really great group. I'm going to go ahead and get started, we just like to just jump right into it. I'm going to read today. I don't always read, but I'm going to do that. If you haven't muted yourself and you're in the group, please do that. These are a couple of very old poems that I pulled from my group with my wife's permission. Sequoias for our movies. Can you see this? Is this showing up?
Yes.
Okay. We are all stars, starring in our own movies. Staring at the picture from the inside, Glenn is the star of Glenn's movie. April is the star of hers. But I am the only one who is always here, the central character in mine, the one my movie cannot do without. That importance is intoxicating, a great self-centered flattery that only stars can give themselves. My movie has children and parents. I'm sandwiched in the middle like jam. I'm afforded the middle perspective. I can see both where I'm going and where I'm coming from. Clearly, I'm part of it. Yet I still watch movies like a voyeur watches other people's movies. It's where I learn how to see the illusions other people see, the illusions in myself. I watched the Twin Towers fall. It happened on every screen. The towers filled with creatures, like the giant sequoias are filled with creatures, each staring from the inside, peeking through the windowed bark until they are eventually burned. The pressure of what will be presses stoically, changing everything. Sequoias are always in the background, the distant scenery. They are props for our movies, and they only renew themselves when they burn. They drop their seedy cones when they are engulfed in fury. Each noble rise is made possible by burning what came before. In between there is growth. I'm going to let one person in real quick, and then I'll read my second poem. And the second one that I pulled for this is called Reflection. In the green of San Francisco's Central Park, a 50-year-old man sits on a bench, looking hard at a young woman bent over to drink from a fountain. Teenagers understand it. They are being surveyed. They are always half aware that they have been loosed into a primal world where images of young bodies are used to sell fast food. It is only barely perceptible, a faint natural calling to gather together for safety. In Ireland, there's a valley bursting with blue heather beside a winding river. White sheep dot the fields like pasty cotton clouds dot languid blue skies. A brilliant white wolf leans down, mouthing the grass, slowly inching toward a lamb. In the river's reflection, it all looks the same. All right. I always feel a little relief when I'm done. Thank you, everybody. Lynette.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I have a recently published poem. It's about the Twin Towers. It's called Dark Streets. One doesn't know how dark the streets can get until all the lights go out. Shrouded with the dust of lives blown like fine powder over all the lampposts from a September breeze. Stillness follows as if time has paused, breathing in the unquiet. Silence that hovers, pausing the sound to come. Time is that powerful. Then the darkness lifts slightly. The wailing of the sirens and screaming comes. Time runs, streaks to the fires, to the rubble, to the bodies, to the survivors, and lets its breath free as it passes by. What can a person say in remembrance? I went to buy a donut and was saved. I overslept. I went to my child's school. My mother called. The dust settles in the mind. The cremated disappear into urns in unmarked, restless places. Monuments rise. Somehow all is well. Flowers begin to bloom. The streets are lighted. The darkness, like time, moves on. It is a way of unknown, unseen things that lurk just beneath the sunlight, casting invisible shadows as if monsters under the bed were waiting to come out. That's it. And this is just a little one I'm still working on. I submitted it to Inwood. It's called Back Roads in Small Places. It was the day I took a wrong turn into the 7 trees off the left rear fork on Jim Johnson's farm road. Corn stalks were just starting to fray at the edges, like old feed sack fabric used too much and left in the barn. The pale sky lit up like an eye just opened to light. You stood on the tiny barrier, been there and here, a small yellow kitten held safely against your 16-year-old chest. I fell in love in that magical moment. No nursing home can erase the beauty of your face, no matter 50 or 1,000 years have passed, and I am still alive.
Oh, that was so tender. Thank you for that. That's great. And I like the verisimilitude of those details of mentioning the name of the farmer, and that imagery with the bags and the corn is it's just perfect. Just so nice. All right. James Nicola.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I decided to put you before Mary Gunn today just because.
Sorry?
So I put you before Mary Gunn today just because.
Oh, yeah, right. I was waiting. Exactly. You know that. Yeah. I saw something. I'm just going to slightly gloss this with what happened the other day when I was jogging. I saw the attendant in the morning pick up some, as it were, litter on the grass in the park by the pier where I go jogging and wrote a poem about something that happened there years ago. So I'm going to read these 2 old poems. But it was a big locket, looked like a big gold watch, except the watch part was the shape of a heart, and it was, brass or cheap stuff. But somebody lost a locket shaped like a heart and reminded me of these 2 poems, so that I thought I'd read them today for you, since it just happened the other day. They're both in my 3rd collection called "Wind in the Cave" from Finishing Line Press, still available. The first one is true only metaphorically. The second one is totally true. So that's my gloss. The first one. Did I react too harshly? Did I react too harshly? What I did, you see, is rip my heart right out. Yes, reach inside one finger at a time, squeeze each with utmost care between the ribs. This thrilled a little. When I flexed and grasped an organ, well, a bloody mess, I felt guts pumping, so I knew without a doubt it had to be a heart my hand now clasped. I pulled, and out it came, and I was fine. I buried it 9 fathoms from the sea. The neap tide took it as a valentine, or fish food, maybe, while the rest of me has been adjusting, learning to survive, not caring who suspects I'm not alive. Second
Very
one is called
nice.
After I Wrote. After I Wrote. And just to gloss one word, filigree, to remind you, is when metal, sometimes it can be wood, is in patterns like lace a little bit. Uh, so that's filigree. There's holes in these vine-like patterns that, in metalwork. After I wrote. After I wrote the poem about ripping my heart out and burying it on a beach where it was swept to sea, the useless thing, I went jogging by the water one morning where a persistent glimmer made me reach down. I stooped to determine what it was. It was a heart, the size of, oh, my thumb. A fallen earring or a brooch? Because the clasp was gone, I wasn't sure which. Does it matter? Silvery, tarnished, and of some design, half of a pair, or just the one? Celtic, perhaps, its right lobe overgrown, the left lobe small, its inner guts a vine of French curved filigree swelled from within, fresh air between the shoots. So now I own a heart that I can leave at home or bring along as loose as pocket change with me, or have a jeweler set as a cheap ring or pin, or with a thin but strong black string hang over where my old heart used to be, tucked underneath a shirt front, probably. Thanks for listening, everyone. And I'll just again gloss that second one is true. I wore it for a year under my shirts. I actually, and then I just hung it up on a. Don't wear it anymore. But anyway, just for the fun of it, I just figured I'd mention that. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks, James. That was one of my favorites from you. Very nice.
Oh,
Appreciate
wonderful.
that.
Wind in the Cave. I'll send you a copy if you send me your mailing address. I have extras.
Oh, well, I'll take you up on that.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Before we move to Mary Gunn, I kind of want to share something. You might want to need a pen if you want to do this. If you don't want to do this, it's okay. I live on the side of a mountain in Pennsylvania. And when I go down the mountain and I leave, there is this roadside grave marker. You have seen those? You drive along the road, somebody has left something for, somebody that they lost. And for the last 3 years, I've been watching this marker, and somebody is really hurting, or they're really, I don't want to get too dramatic, but they're always doing stuff. They're putting fresh flowers on it. They're putting little stuffed animals on it and stuff. And the other night I was driving through there in the middle of the night, and they had put up a solar light that twinkles on it. And it's not a big thing. It's just a little thing, a little on the side of a fence kind of thing. But I was talking to my wife and I said, I am going to write a poem about this graveside marker and how obvious it is to me that the person who is maintaining this is honoring somebody, and try to write it in such a way that it's a healing thing. Because I believe that poetry really has the power to heal hearts and to touch people in positive ways. So I wish I knew more than I am offering, except that it's there. I don't know who the marker's for or who it is that's maintaining it, other than it's somebody that maintains it very well, and it's always making little changes to it. It's always there on the side of the mountain, winding down the road on a little blind turn where you wouldn't even know it was there. So if you want to write an uplifting poem and send it to me, I will put it with mine. And I'm going to put it in a little plastic Ziploc bag that is weatherproof. I'm going to hang it on the side of that for the person to find. And hopefully it'll give them some comfort. Okay. So if you want to participate in that, I'm inviting you to, but certainly no obligation to do that. Okay, Mary Gunn.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Glenn, and hello to everybody there. I liked the reference to Ireland in that second poem you read earlier, Glenn. They were very nice. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm only going to read one poem today, if that's okay.
Sure.
It's a Simcain called At the Turn of the Season. If anybody isn't familiar with the Simcain format, it's a 5-line poem written to a syllable count of 2, 4, 6, 8, 2. So, at the turn of the season, petals fade and wither, seed pods grow and ripen. As summer slips into autumn, leaves fall. that was first published on a website called The Literary Librarian. And if you could see it centered on a page, it shows the shape of the tree, which sort of suits the topic. That's it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Oh, I love new, these constrained forms. Everybody looks very happy. I know you can't see us, but I hope you go and see that from the Facebook page. Constrained poems are great, and it's a little teaching moment for people that didn't see that one before. So good. Thank you for sharing that one. Marjorie Greenberg. There you are. You have to unmute yourself.
Yes. I have two poems, and the first one I wrote in response to the sudden death of a lovely lady, Stephanie. Her death split my heart, shredded my lungs, paralyzed my limbs, set my brain on fire. Yet the sun is shining, peaches are ripening, children are screeching, the earth is spinning. The universe does not know its best is gone. My second poem is lighthearted. I hope you'll find it comical, particularly after what I just read. I know a woman, she's a grammarian, or is it grammatician? I make that observation because she knows her nouns, split infinitives, dangling participles, and more. I'll bet she parsed sentences to oblivion in elementary school. She's an adult now, her usage is impeccable. One sunny day, chatting with her on a park bench, without warning or provocation, she threw a gerund at me. I was knocked over. That attack caused my PTSD. Nightly, I dream I'm trapped in a windowless corridor, chased by sentence fragments, searching for their subjects.
Glenn, you're muted.
Oh, I was having a whole conversation. I did like that poem. The whole throw a gerund at me thing was great. Everybody smiled. I just looked at everybody's faces. It's just great. All right, John McMullen.
Okay, I'll read two from my most recent book, My Life in 26 Poems. Rock and roll, 1955. I rush in, turn the radio on, and turn on to 1010 Winds just in time to hear the sound of Cozy Eggleston's The Big Heavy, and Alan Freed is on the air. Freed transformed music for me and my contemporaries. We closed the door on our parents, Sinatra, Bennett, and Peggy Lee, only to reopen it years later and brought in the Fat Man from New Orleans, Clyde, Chuck, Roy, Bo, Ray, the Clovers, Smiley, Shirley, and Lee, and most of all, the doo-wop sound. We ate it up, becoming music junkies. We knew that Curtis Williams was the lead singer of the Penguins, Tony Williams, the lead of the Platters, and Otis Williams of the Charms, and none were related. We white kids all moved deeper into the Black culture, going to shows in New York's famed Apollo Theater in Harlem, and then across the street to Clyde McFadden's record shop. And we moved from the white Freed to the Black Jocko Henderson and WADO, who taught us to rhyme. E.T. the Yock, this is a jock singing, ooh, Papa do, and how do you do? Bado, bado, the moon glows, ooh-ah, ooh-ah, nutmeg, shoo-doo, and shoo-be-doo. The five satins, wop, bop-a-loo, ma-ba-lop, bam, boom, Little Richard, hey, doom-mato, hey, teenagers, tie samoka, boom, da-eh, tie samaka, boom, the five keys, yeah. And then Elvis came along and drove the white girls crazy, all the parents nuts, but it was still okay as it was with the other Sun record stars, Johnny, Carl, Roy, and the incomparable Jerry Lee. but then the awful white singers began to emerge. We played more and more Tab Hunter, Fabian, Frankie Avalon, and it was just too much. So we found WNEW returning to Sinatra and Friends, or moved to jazz, only to be liberated again by the Beatles, Dylan, and the Byrds. And we found out that our original music guide, Alan Freed, had taken payola to play songs and taken credit for writing songs which he had nothing to do. So we got slightly jaded and loved songs like, with lines like, the three men I admired the most, the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, they caught the last train for the coast. That, of course, was American Pie by Don McLean. I'll read the next poem and you'll pick up early what the connection is of the neighborhood culture. I was born and raised in the Inwood section at the very top of Manhattan Island. It was an Irish Catholic Jewish section then, and each group that the neighborhood belonged to them. And they were both right. It had three claims to fame then: a giant park with a large real forest, Columbia University's football stadium, and more bars than any neighborhood in New York City. People came from all over to watch football, play in the park, and drink in the bars. Walter Winchell called Ginwood in the press and on the radio. The legal drinking age in New York then was 18. So we could start in the park at 15 or 16. When I first tasted beer, I didn't like it. That soon changed. We moved to the bars at 17 or 18. Whether in the park or the bars, the beer was merely the catalyst. It was the conversation that bonded us. I no longer imbibe. In the words of the great sports writer Jimmy Cannon, I stopped drinking 25 years ago. I retired with the title. I know a number who fell into the bottle. Most of them did not. We became engineers, lawyers, accountants, writers, and technologists. Were it not for the half-quart cans of Pabst and the advent of the desktop computer, I would never become a writer. So I owe a lot to the neighborhood and to the culture. But I go back once a month for a luncheon. There are now few bars. The neighborhood is Dominican at one end and gentrified and expensive at the other. The times and the stores may be different, but the friendships and the memories live on. My Inwood is now the state of the mind. Who's got the church key? Thank you.
That might be the most energy I've seen you with, John. That was nice. That was good.
It's my own most recent book, and of course, I'm walking it, going,
Yeah, working it. Yeah, that's good. I like the way that the beginning of the first poem really kind of echoed that older style of disc jockey era stuff. You know, it's like it really came to life.
And the first poem that I published with you, it was because I came from one Inwood, and it was Inwood, Indiana, on the other one. And when Alan Freed came to New York, he came from Cleveland. He came from the Midwest. So I brought rock and roll to us. So.
All right. So
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks. Somebody else is popping in. Who is on under the name Ralph Knowles? You have to unmute yourself. There you go. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I'm not Ralph. Ralph is my husband. And I'm on his computer because the background of my computer is one great big mess. So I'm on his computer today.
That's fine. Go ahead and introduce yourself and then go ahead and read.
Okay, well, my name is Mary Knowles. And the name of my poem is The Rivulet. My life is a rivulet, a narrow thread of water gathered from the dripping skies, daintily picking my way across the landscape, hesitating where I must, but with constant purpose. Nudging past blades of grass and small stones, I wend my way to braid with other rivulets, one here, one there, another there, flowing together, ever wider and deeper, swiftly making our collective way until the fullness of that great river loosens itself into the unending ocean. There, I reached the end of my discrete existence, a cup of water tossed into all of me still there, but no longer myself. My passions dissolved, my purpose dissipated, my molecules dispersed among the countless others. What then? Am I to be lifted into the air, evaporation that falls once more to water a thirsty earth? From the vast ocean, so do I then make my way once more, a force of life, creating even as I am created? Perhaps the value of existence lies in the ephemeral, the flower I once nourished in the meadow, the tree I briefly watered along my banks, the deer that drank from my streaming, the otters, beavers, fish that found a home in me, the small boat I carried with me. And now, once more, and then again and again, cycle within cycle, opportunities for creation abound. Species come and species go, Earth itself swallowed by a swelling sun. Stars will be born and stars will die. Black holes contract, big bangs expand. Life unceasing. All things ever fresh. All existence ever new.
Thank you for that. That was very nice. Very bucolic. Do you have another one for today?
Today,
Okay, that's fine. No, thank you. Thank you so much for that one. That was just beautiful. I love that kind of poetry. I'm going to move on to Leonard Lund.
As I unceremoniously dump the cat on the floor. He likes watching what I'm doing. Okay. Two love affairs documented in photographs. The fall of Paris. We'd been to La Manoque that night, letting the world know we were lovers. This was Paris. The spring was 1940, and heads didn't turn to follow us because we were two women embracing, but because we were beautifully young. We must have been young, mon chéri. How else could we have found ourselves dancing on a rooftop parapet, looking as if it were nothing, 10 lofty stories to the sober Sunday street below? How else could we find each other? This memory doesn't end in disaster. You didn't fall, nor obviously did I. It ends instead in common tragedy. The Germans came to us in June. I went to the countryside with the resistance, and you stayed in the capital, a Jewess. Reminders. And yet another postcard, this one of Paris. A winter scene, the Seine with a graceful cantilever bridge, the Eiffel Tower rising from the distant mist while closer trees are perfect half snow curves. An image copyrighted the year you entered this world. The last one before this showed bison in a snow-blanketed Yellowstone. It was taken the year after the two of you met. The message was brief, one of his puns. Have you heard I love you? Others have come at random intervals. The scenes mostly foreign, undated. A man and a woman, their dog's leash is tangled, the feeling that they're strangers or estranged friends. One of a church, one of a dog. With the note, we could have been married here. So many winter settings, not surprising, but why so many of Paris? A place you've neither ever been together or apart. Do you foolishly save these in a box buried deep in your closet, hidden like your heart? Perhaps you throw them out, the read and unread, and maybe you taunt your husband by letting them lie about. What would happen if you answered them? Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Shasta Hatter.
Hi,
Here you are.
I do have a chapbook. It's called Jewels in This Light, Haiku and Other Short Poems, and it's available on Amazon. I'll put that. And today I'm reading 2 haikus. One is a very traditional 575 haiku. It's called Constrained Haiku, and it's traditional with haiku to read it twice. So the first one is Rainy City Night, Ornate Wreathed Entryway, Shelters Sleeping Man. Rainy City Night, Ornate Recessed Entryway, Shelters Sleeping Man. And then the other one is not a constrained haiku, it's a modern American haiku, which does not require 575 for all you purists. Anyway, it's meteor flashes in starless city sky, night of your passing. Meteor flashes in starless city sky, night of your passing. Thank you.
Thank you. I really like the imagery of that first one with, kind of imagine this homeless person sleeping in this really ornate sort of, place. And it makes you, that juxtaposition, it just says so much about all of us. I think it's really, really good. Thank you for sharing that. That was
Thank you for that feedback.
really nice. And I don't think there are any poetry snobs here that would say anything about somebody that didn't follow the constrained form or whatever. Michael Lewis Beck.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting me, Glenn. I think hard about these presentations in terms of what I think the idea for me is a Poetry Quarterly and picking the poems. And these are 2 what I decided to call neighborhood poems. They're medium length. The first one is called Alexandrine. And for those of you probably don't know this, but an Alexandrine has an extra beat. It's got 6 beats in a line. It's a French style. And this is also a Liszt poem. Alexandrine. I remember nothing from age 1.5. I remember nothing from age 2.5. I remember nothing from age 3.5. I remember from age 4, one big story about ... I remember throw up on the kitchen linoleum. I remember the red onion slice like a gibbous. I remember at 6, going to grandma's farm. I remember getting hives, sores red and raw. I remember grandpa said well water did it. I remember at 8, my wax paper wrapped foot. I remember I stepped on a rusty nail, Mom said. I remember more the dressing, not the accident. I remember with my buddies in Phil's bedroom. I remember us neighbor kids watching his toe wiggle. I remember he didn't have polio, just stubbed his toe. Thank you, and I hope that you can't hear my cat, but if you can, well, he's a nice cat.
It just adds to the drama.
Okay. Like, he's crying in pain as I read.
No, it's very nice.
This one is called Treehouse in Town. On my morning ramble in the neighborhood, I spied along Ronald Street a rising tree house being built by the man with the yellow 2-story Iowa 4-square frame home. The treehouse pole stands about 18 feet, a pine trunk just cut and with a healthy bark, like an old man's face that's creviced but ruddy, with an unexpected radiance. The house itself, in mid-construction, has so far a scattered flooring of heavy yellow pine boards, secured for now by glittering grade 70 Tulsa chain. The builder, if it is the man in the yellow house, knows how to build. Not only the physics, the aesthetics too. The treehouse shelters itself under a vascular river birch and still tall pine. In fall, I collect pine cones from these trees. The ones fall into ground, nesting on beds of scented needles. I wonder who will climb the pole, hide out up there, who will sip tea at the trunk stump on the little table poking through the board floor. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say to Patrice and Krista, I didn't greet you when you came in, but I know you're there, and Catherine, you're all in the list. Doug, you're going to be next. But I just want to say that we've got in the list here Bob, Michael, David, James, Carol, Edward, then Dennis. Hi, Dennis. Ginny. Always love Jenny's reading. Then Catherine, Michael, Francis, Lynette's iPhone, Patricia Wilson, and Krista. I think that's where we're at, right? Okay, so go ahead, Doug, when you're ready.
Okay, I'm going to read two poems. I write a lot of nature-related poems, and this comes from a group that I wrote pretty recently. The first poem is titled Goldfinch Grand Prix. Goldfinches pedal to the metal, slalom through the goldenrod, sulfur butterflies swirl in a yellow dust devil, cabbages do-si-do. Heat cracks the earth in a spider web, grasshoppers take wing, gnawing green. As long as the robins sing, I don't care if they mate, if the rain puddles or sluices into the culvert. It's the bellow of a bullfrog, the buzz of hummingbird wings, the woodpecker's rap song that knocks on my door, makes my thistle bloom, attracts the swallowtails and bees to feast on my thorn nectar. The sun sets in a red bloom, the moon ripples on the lake, stars kiss the onyx sky. The second poem is titled Deciduous. Outside my window, the ashes bare branches look entangled, furrows of bark rivulets creased in thought. 3 leaves cling, yellow caution, they are about to fall, do a forward triple somersault to the ground. But they hold their petiole grip, refuse to dive into the oak pile. Every year, the same deciduous decision, drain the chlorophyll, shed the year's green cloak, and refuse to shiver hearing the winter wind's words, the temperature's cold attitude. I wish I was deciduous, could drop everything, hibernate, stand stoic as a statue, ignore the snow's cold shoulder, be patient on the thaw, another chance to leave and hear the breeze whisper metaphors, the blue jay's smart aleck replies, the squirrel's insistence, the rush and high of chlorophyll, and bending just enough to let the thunderstorms pass.
Wow, that's right up my alley. I love that kind of stuff. Thank you, Doug. That was very good. Okay, Bob Moreland.
I'm going to read a older poem. The book thing got put in the chat. I wasn't planning on that, but this is from the book that's listed there. This is called The Wall. In memory of Captain David Langston Coker II. The first time I saw the wall, it was in the chill of an early fall evening. A sullen mist, a damp fog rolled in from Lincoln's feet. The cold gray stone descended into the dark soil. Thousands of faces, now chiseled names, forever young. At the deepest point in the earth, I found your name. tracing the letters with my finger, in vain hope of reaching out and embracing you, to speak with you but a while, hear you laugh again, and relive the memories, rich and vivid through the years. I trace the letters of your name again, and think of when I last saw you at the height of summer. And now, in the cold darkness, you cannot see me grieve for you and all the others, the lives not lived or children fathered, the sacrifices made. The last time was in the late spring. My son could not understand the names, the wall. So I told him of you. And when he asked why I was crying, I traced again the letters of your name with my finger and thought of you at the height of summer, forever young. Little lighter note, this was, believe it or not, accepted to our Wisconsin Fellowship of Poets calendar. This is called Medicinal. She sings the praise of chocolate, whether it is cool mousse or hot, sweet white confection free or bought. That is why all those wars were fought. Tasty dark truffle on her lips, bite and then her espresso sips. Price of indulging in all these trips, it ends up around her hips. Decide what's best, it's not a waste. Planning world tour just for a taste. Belgian, Swiss, German, Dutch repast, prepared after a 2-day fast. Miracle food, oh wonder cure. Delight the smell, her taste buds lure. Sing the praise of chocolate pure. Then treadmill workout to endure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody go see the moving wall when it was moving around the country with all of the names etched in it? It was very, very emotional. And I don't know if I can ever hear the word wall in a poem without thinking of Frost, you know, the mending wall. There is something that does not love a wall, right? You guys know that poem? If you don't, I see a few shaking of the heads in here. If you don't know that poem, it's really one of my favorites. You should go check that out sometime. Beautiful piece of poetry. Michael Flanagan.
Hi, I write short poems, and while I was listening today, I jotted down a new one that kind of rang from my childhood. Thursday is PB&J. I carefully refold the wax paper for tuna tomorrow. Then actually had another one from my childhood. Our last baseball, resting on the school roof, mocking our plans. And that's
The last baseball. That's
Yeah.
what really makes that work. There's a bunch of them that came before that. I love it. Oh, that's great. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you
Thank
very much. David Harris.
Glenn have read something that referred to the movies, and I decided to include this one. We learn who we are from the movies. On clear nights, we could see the drive-in screen, watch the distant images step and glide through the picture window of the living room. Gene Kelly tapped and leaped in silence, drove me to dance lessons. When I took up cigarettes, Bogart taught me how to look manly with them, or in a trench coat, years before I realized I could own one. I tapped and then I didn't. I smoked and then I didn't. I wore a trench coat and now I don't know where it went. John Wayne for cowboy swagger, Cary Grant for suave charm, Fred Astaire for easy grace. None of the disguises ever fit quite right. And this one was just accepted by Third Wednesday. The Naiad. That night, Tom would take all his guests out to the country road and turn off the flashlight so we city people could see real darkness as the pre-electric gods experienced it. But now he and Charlie were collecting people at the bus station, and I was alone sitting on a rock in the brook that ran past the house. The country can be dark, but never silent. Birds, wind, water, even with no people near. And I heard voices. One voice, many, human voices, gods. In Greece, every rivulet had its nymph whispering and muttering that only the sacred few could understand. The next day, Tom heard the call, retired to the kitchen, and came back with a sonnet. But the nymph speaks only Greek to me. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's funny how movies seem to kind of creep into things a lot. I just finished a master class with James Patterson on the fiction side of things. And if I could take anything out of that class, it would be really interesting. I mean, it's fiction, not poetry, so I'll move on. But he's always thinking about the movie when he's writing something. He's like looking at a scene and he's imagining it in the movie. That's where things have kind of gone. I wonder how that's going to really impact poetry. Do we have to have scenes? Do people have to imagine it in visual context instead of, you know, importing their own experiences to something? The world's so mediated now. System. It's different. James Bethel.
Hey, Glenn, thank you for remembering I exist. I have two poems. This first one is from my collection, Unless Rain, which is scheduled, at least, for release sometime this fall. We're getting close. By Cervena Barba Press out of Boston area. This first one is called Passing Through the North of Dakota Beyond. Passing through the north of Dakota beyond the Devil's Lake, Norma America visits her resting place. It's a ditch off a county road you would know only if you'd lived here forever. A scar eroded by even this day's wind. A common unmarked home for coyotes, rabbits, and lizards. This crack in the earth radiates death dreams of shame and horror and greatness and power and some kind of vague, vulnerable whimpering. Here in this gulch formed before the rape of this native land, nothing cultivated grows. Mad wind and insane rivers of rain have torn away the roots of any design, obscuring the line we want to draw between perpetrator and victim. Life, like dandelion fluff, scatters across superhighways, lodging with cottonwood seed in the concrete step cracks at the bank of Oklahoma or Ontario or Maine. This great place is not an important place, especially to those who live near. Here is an irritating discontinuity for tractors to negotiate, combines to avoid, cattle to piss in. The absolute center of a continent. Yet the traveler does not visit here, does not turn at the place marked on the highway. Miles ago, there was that briefest of moments, an opportunity to witness this place. But whatever sense of wonder may have then seemed is now an uneasiness, feeding the accelerator in the race onward to some place with a name, like a thing. This one is the title poem of a new collection that's presently circling the black hole of publication searches. Prelude to the Afternoon of an Echo. They will listen all day in this canyon, carved by the watercourse, passing through here long ago with no plan but to be. They will wait, unaware that they are tarrying here, to hear the one voice left behind that moved the river just to speak again the story that only stones can tell. Thanks, appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Wow. Anybody else just saying, wow, today's reading is just
Pretty
really
strong.
something.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
strong. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys.
And
are
there's a lot of consonants going on. It's just integrating beautifully.
Yeah, everybody's on point. That's for sure. Carol Casey.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Okay, I have two poems. The first one, I don't know if is there any other Canadians here? Guess not. Okay. Maybe you
Yep,
guys.
Michael Watterson's from Canada.
Oh, okay, great. Anyways, Canadians.
Actually, my father is, so technically I am as well.
Oh, right. Okay, well, you might
My
not be so proud of that
my father comes from New Brunswick, came from New Brunswick.
Oh, I see. I'm from Ontario. And I don't know if you guys watch the news about Canada, but we've been, a lot of Canadians, and myself included, have been coming to terms with the fact that they have found over 3,000 unmarked graves of children of Indigenous people. Yeah, some people are nodding. They've heard of this. They were for years and years and years, even within my lifetime, they were taken from their families and put in these residential schools. I don't know if that happened in the States. It may have, but it happened in Canada. And then it was an attempt to civilize them and make them more like the rest of us, and sort of anyway, so at least 3,000 and more children there died of neglect, abuse, or disease, or a combination of those three. So,
Didn't you do a reading similar to that? Yeah. Yeah, it's wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I think a lot of Canadian poets are probably got something like this, because it's one of those things you have to write about to try to come to terms with it. So my poem's called Seed. And it starts with a quote from Dinos Christianopoulos. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right. And he said, "What didn't you do to bury me? But you forgot that I was a seed." And I guess it's like, I'm also thinking about the climate crisis and everything as well, and what civilization has done to us. As a child of 7, she didn't know this. Yet here she comes, earthbound to earthborn to win, through fire and tears to fill the world with longing for what could have been and what could be. Let her leaves unfurl, turn them, learn them, let her grow strong and green. Take root inside our hearts, among our words and ways. Let her branches crack the corridors of dominance and greed with photosynthesis. She is true to the dream of forest and stream. She is seed. We need her now. And my other one is a bit lighter, and this is one that's going to be in a anthology by Cardigan Press called Byline Legacies, which is writers writing about writing. So this one's called Writing Cats and Dogs. There is a fear that pops up just before I start to write. It's like the one that followed me to swimming lessons as a child. A small, somewhat fuzzy, stray dog of a trepidation. Friendly enough, but with a hint of kismet. It sidled up to the edge of the pool just before I jumped, vanished at the teacher's command. It's gone now that I've started writing, tail vanished between legs. I fancy that if I brought it home, fed it, it would grow as big as my house, break my pen, sit on my hand, till I'd have to move out or splinter the rafters. By the way, this not bringing the dog home is a cat I found in an alley, a large, unruly, battle-scarred Tom. Scary enough, but with a hint of cadence that purrs at my feet as I write, rubs against my legs, hisses when it sees the dog. I feed him scraps and continue writing.
Thank you for sharing. With regard to that first poem, very well done. And poetry really has a power to give voice to victims long after the primary advocates for those victims are gone. You think about somebody's child is gone and the mother is conveying that to you, the pain of that, and you're all completely behind her because you understand that connection. But 100,000, 100 or several hundred years later, when all the people with personal connections are gone, it's just a headline, it's just a story, and it's numbing inside because we hear so many headlines and so many stories and so many tragedies. But when you give a voice to these kinds of victims with through poetry, it reopens those doors of compassion in your heart and gives power and reinstills that voice to the victim. And it's so important for us as poets to use the art that we have to give voice to people who don't have one anymore. And I really appreciate that. I thought it's important what you did, and it's really nice. It's very, very nicely done. Edward Ahern.
Okay, I'm afraid I'm going to be the outlier here for a couple of reasons. The first one is this is sort of a formal verse. It's common verse, so it's 8-6 feet, and it carries on. And I threw some rhyme in just because I felt like it. It's called "One More Time." Everybody see this?
Yeah, I can see it.
Good. One more time. Before too long, the COVID masking will intrude into my life with muffled words and itchy face of public need, and yet another shot to warranty against the looming rife of viruses that seem to change with fiendish speed. The obstinate among us stand their ground and often die, but not before they also often help it breed. A nurture of a fatal part of nature better to defy than to abet and proudly ask it in to feed. It was fun to write. I don't do a lot of sort of kind of formal poetry, but it was fun.
Oh, the cadence was perfect on that. Good job.
And I will pull up the other one. This is, I'm not entirely happy with this yet, so I haven't really shopped it around much. I mean it to be sad rather than bitter, and I'm working at getting that done. This is called "The Spoiling Fruit." How she was bruised is conjecture, but damaged she is, a side of her essence discoloring early on, one aspect becoming and smart, one almost involuntarily vitriolic. Her voice either sweet or rancorous, her words either petals or thorns. Acquaintances risk the spiteful half to enjoy the blush of her fruit, but after enduring the contact, set her aside as spoiled. Those family branch cannot shirk their relationship and sometimes wither at her touch. It's perhaps not her fault to flay in acid discord, but her delusion to feel wronged by those subjected to her moods, and her fate to bruise many drawn to her attractiveness. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Sometimes those, yeah, I get the same thing. I hit a poem sometimes and I really feel like, yeah, it's not there yet or whatever. If you have a close-knit writing group of other poets that you can workshop things together, that's really great. More voices are wonderful. If you don't have a close-knit, I do offer workshopping. So you could always contact me if you want to work through that kind of stuff. All right, so the next one, oh, Dennis Malsby.
Can you hear me okay, Glenn?
Hey, hi, Dennis.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
First, let me show my debut novel, House to Gracie. It just won a Global Ebook Award in its ebook forum.
Woohoo. Nicely done.
And then I have two poems. I will screen share if I can.
Mhm.
I'm hitting the screen share, nothing's happening.
Well, usually, yeah, you have to click screen share, and then on my computer
Yeah.
anyway, I also have to click the actual screen that I want to choose from.
Well, it says my browser is preventing access to your screen share.
Uh-oh.
So I'm gonna I'll have to go with, just read them to you. This first one was an ekphractic poem, and it just won an honorable mention in the Writer's Digest contest. It's entitled Breezes Jostle. Breezes jostle clusters of both thistles, switchgrass, and jimson weeds. Feral heirloom hollyhocks sway, rap against the faded paint of shiplap siding, and play with the winds. Stained calico curtains become signal flags, flapping in blind second-story windows. Tiny taloned pigeon feet tap dance in the attic. Their blue-gray wings flutter in a cappella harmony. A solitary rocker waits on the front porch. Sun-bleached oak bones turned ash gray. Gusts whistle through broken-toothed porch latticework, slither around curlicue carved columns to bat the rocker. Its dusty twin runners exhale double mouse squeaks as they move back and forth. The rocking teases memories of red yarn-haired Raggedy Ann dolls, flowered sundresses, lemonade, and sugar cookies. The second one is a haibun, which is a Japanese form and includes both prose and poetry. And the poetry is at the very end in the form of a haiku. And it's entitled Midnight on the Deck. Velvet dark embraces the lawn, sweeps up to cold tingle my legs, chest, and face. The clipped smell of grass blood soaks nostrils. Moon and stars flutter. A shadow rabbit lopes across the lawn to invade a neighbor's flower bed. I set a tall Pilsner glass on the umbrellaed table, lacy beer foam cozy on the bottom. A meteor shower sprays rocket artillery tails across the sky. Fireflies wink from air and grass tops. Muzzle flashes in jungle ambush. Tumbled ragdoll bodies of the soul fled flush my mind with agony. Nocturnal breezes run female fingers through my hair. Specters of women past, giggle, moan, and sob. The snare of beauty, stab of love. Age shakes my white hair and pits a lifetime of regrets against successes. Past events flicker in silent film noir. No balance achieved, I rock to soothe the tatters. The rabbit shade flits out of azaleas and coneflowers. Head and long ears turn toward me. Amber eyes glower. It whispers, there is still time to become human.
Very, very nice. Okay. If you don't have a copy of his Free Fire Zone book that we published at Prolific Press, you're encouraged to go pick that up. There's a lot of work like that in there. It's just fantastic. Jenny Pina.
Hey, nice to see you.
Good to see you.
So this is a chapbook I have out, The Werewolves of Elk Creek, and it's available from Moonstone Press. So I'm going to read something from this and then a new poem. The poem from the chapbook is called Omens. When I open my eyes that morning, my mind sings. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. Any brain can be washed. I downed 2 cups of black coffee. I should have stayed in bed. Driving back from Philly, another omen, a shiny hearse speeding past my temple. We don't cart dead people around in dirty cars. Everyone tries to see the body through the pinched window of a hearse. By the way, any black thing can be an omen, a hurricane cloud, an alley cat, a glossy raven, a rotten egg. My laptop keys are black. Not to be missed, 32-second YouTube video. Warning, extremely disturbing content. I should have read a book instead. 2 teenage boys from Northwest Pennsylvania. 2 teenage boys out hunting torture a half-dead deer. 2 teenage boys out hunting video themselves torturing a half-dead deer. Omens don't lie. White-tailed deer leaning against a tree, trying to die with a view of the woods he loves. Bark rough on his back hide, maybe a squirrel dropping down onto the crunch of another discarded autumn. And these boys laughing like hyenas. Boys from one of Pennsylvania's prettiest painted places. Lumber mill, hospital, a factory turning out baseball bats. I grew up in a postcard Pennsylvanian town too. My cousins hunted. I was never afraid of them. What does evil look like just before it slithers inside?
Oh, geez, that was rough.
All right, here's another, this isn't so rough. This is called the Appalachian Trail 2021. Between Ashby Gap and Snicker Gap, along a stretch dubbed the roller coaster, boot falls of an invading army. The mountain groans and quakes a little. Pulling strength from somewhere deep, she tries in vain to roll onto her emerald side. The old hiking trail wound along her spine has been trampled open. At her base, a cinder lot bleeds cars onto the highway. Undaunted, gloved volunteers arrive daily to help, though they don't hum to her anymore. Trash grabbers in hand, shoulders sloping grim. They bag dog shit, cigarette butts, aluminum cans, empty Ziplocs, candy wrappers, dirty diapers, flung gum, Bic lighters, styrofoam boxes, baby binkies, blue masks. The mountain, she wishes to whisper them to them, so she does. She sets Virginia warblers on low boughs close to the orange-vested workers for all the healing a morning bird song can do. Sprouts clusters of great blue lobelia nearby, cardinal flowers, painted trillium, showy skullcap, delights when they stop to touch and smell. Sends cool breezes, ups the trickle of passing stream. At dusk when they are tired, the last to leave the trail, she performs a miracle only a mountain can do. Calls forth a satiny hush of stardust to drift down. The soft thrill of first flakes of a gentle and pure snow. Talcum sifting through treetops to enter the arc of the world. Though the workers know it can't be true, a snowfall in August, their faces look skyward. Their lips part and smile. They hear her. Nothing bad lasts forever. Thank you.
Both of those were just fantastic. Okay. Does anybody else like watch the news a lot? I don't watch the news anymore. I have just made a personal choice to exclude myself from all of it. And I don't watch it. I don't watch the news. I just don't. I don't watch the late night talk shows that are filled with negativity and bashing people. I don't, and everybody's got their side of things and that's okay. But I just personally just try to find a center spot, that for me, that's peaceful. And I have found over the last couple of years after I adopted this sort of mentality of, quieting the voices that I absorb day to day, that I think I've become a better poet. I think that I feel things more deeply and that my heart's unlocked a little bit more. I just thought I'd share that. If you're one of those people that's just digesting, the news every night and with great fervor, you're online telling people about it, you might give that a try. I don't know who needed to hear that, but my heart was saying somebody needs to hear this. So I just wanted to say it. Catherine.
First, can everybody hear me okay?
Sure.
Okay, my connection was bad and I got a little message there a second ago. My first poem, I was thinking it kind of follows on from the poem that I think it was Bob, the one Bob wrote about chocolate. So kind of part 2 or something. It's called Whiskey and Chocolates, but there's a small introduction. Let me read the introduction. 89-year-old Rita Sargent of Chippenham, Wiltshire, England said regarding sheltering during COVID-19 lockdowns in 2020. So she said, rubbish, life's for living. If I get COVID, get me a bottle of whiskey and a box of chocolates and leave me. So the poem is called Whiskey and Chocolates. So much depends upon a bottle of whiskey and a box of chocolates. My mouth full and muddy as a pond, my tongue splashing in all that flavor, sweet, spicy, bitter. If I catch the virus, I'll be blamed for not sheltering. They'll say I have my own blood on my hands. It will be chocolate on my fingers, sticky and dark with life's ending. Strong whiskey like fire on my last breath. I'll raise my glass in a golden toast to life. Pop chocolates, unmarked, uncounted, like the days of my life into my mouth, a black smile smeared beautifully on my face. So much depends upon death's arrival. I'll be ready, embalmed in sugar and alcohol, my body sluggish and warm, my eyes sleepy, my legs boneless, nearly a century of living finalized. No fear, no sadness, only giggles, an empty bottle, an empty box. And my second poem, it's called On Being a Ghost. I would enjoy being a ghost, entering rooms as white and dramatic as a locomotive's column smoke, smearing a friendly blur of my living self over cold, electrically charged air. I wonder if there are different types of ghosts or if they are one size fits all. I want to be the type that moves things like Patrick Swayze in the film Ghost, push a penny up a door, write boo on a fogged up mirror, let people know I'm there. In the dark shape of an ancient warrior, I would join a rush of violent clouds in a heavenly stampede, moving up and far away to stare back into the earth's perfect eyeball. I would mix myself like white paint with the blood reds and blues of the cosmos, wander through surrealistic art galleries of nebulas and galaxies, nodding my head, checking the places God should be, but never was whenever I search the sky. But I shouldn't be dwelling on the possibilities of ghosthood just yet, not when decades filled with blood, flesh, and bone are waiting for me like packed larders, everything there for the taking. I plan to use it all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very nicely done. Michael Watterson.
Thank you, Glenn. Thanks, everybody. Good afternoon. Two poems to read today. The first one appeared last year in a little New York magazine called Glimpse. It's called Gone Train Blues. Listening to Sam McGee's flying fingers, flat-picking railroad blues, my phantom tears fall for all the railroads sidetracked long ago, faded names on empty boxcars, shunted onto rusted spurs. Chesapeake and Ohio, Erie, Lackawanna, Illinois Central, cannonballing into legend. once bustling stations retooled to postcard museums where shadows endlessly pass, calling all aboard, echoing a slide guitar strum picking up steam, hauling broken hearts down the line to nowhere, each passenger's last dime dropping through the holes in their pockets as they lug suitcases full of enough ache to make anyone sing the blues. So if your lover soaring away on a silver bird into the blue knocks you to your knees, drags you crawling to the crossroads to bargain for your soul, no demon talent will possess you, fret your fraying heartstrings, or moan your low-down pain for the masses' adulation. For the devil packed his dignity and left you, baby, with no tracks to roll on down. Thank you.
Who is Sam McGee?
Sam McGee is an old blues guy. He's actually a white guitarist, but he's one of those, you know, you have to kind of be a blues aficionado. I heard him a little bit just before I wrote this poem. I was going over old railroad songs, and I heard his version of Railroad Blues, and so it's one of those you have to be a real blues aficionado to appreciate him.
You guys know? Does anybody know Service's poem called "The Cremation of Sam McGee"?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I see Sam McGee, that's what I always think. And that was one of the first. That was one of the first like really long poems that I ever memorized. And it starts out, there are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who moil for gold. And the Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was the night on the marge of Lake Labarge where I cremated Sam McGee. And it goes on and on and on. And it's if you don't know that poem, go read it. It's wonderful. All right. Well, you taught me something new. When I get off of here sometime later today, I'm gonna look up some of his music because I like the blues.
Great. Thanks. I have one more.
Yes.
With the I know we don't do political stuff, but with the 20th anniversary of September 11th coming up, I think that's really gone from political to historical. And so,
We'll see.
Well, we will. Yeah.
Go ahead.
And in some senses, I guess the historical is always political, as we're, continue to discover. But this I call 9/11 Litany. New York, New York, World Trade Towers, AM rush hour, Flight 11, 9/11, 911 explosion. Oh God, Flight 175, suicide dive out of the blue attacking us. Jet fuel, jet black, pyrocumulus, burning holes in the sky. Oh, who, why? Hijackers armed with box cutters, flight school, landing never learned. Transponders turned off, responders rush in, ground zero, inferno. Chiron scrolls, Flight 77, Pentagon, Armageddon. Video clips, loop, apocalypse, 24/7. Flights grounded, fighters scrambled. Flight 93 downed in a field in PA. Let's roll. What role did Saudis play? Did Saddam play? CIA, Green Beret, roll in the graveyard of empires. USA, USA. Anthrax by mail, shoe bomb attack fails. Mayday, Mayday. American Taliban, Guantanamo Bay. Enhanced interrogation, Abu Ghraib aberration, black ops, black sites. TSA X-ray, shoes in a bin, Bin Laden in a cave in Tora Bora, got away. USA, USA. Oh, say can you see from sea to sea, steel beam memorials rusting like memory, twin beam tribute, shining blue rays 4 miles high, 60 miles away. USA, USA. Dark day, dark day.
That was good. That was
Thank
good. Obviously, a lot of that's taken from like headlines and stuff. Is that a Flarf poem? Did you intend that to go?
No, I didn't have any form in mind, and I wish I could screen share it. It's written as in 2 columns, so it's the Twin Towers 11, to echo that visually, to give it that concrete element to it.
Oh, that was nice. That was really good.
Thank you.
Francis Flavin, Rebecca Lard Award-winning poet, Francis Flavin.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's still morning here in Reno. It's our first day in 3 weeks that the air hasn't been hazardous, so it's kind of a red letter day here. I picked since this is my first dip in this poetry pool, I picked a short poem, so I test the waters. And the name of the poem is C Street Stairs. I took a walk down by the hill where once we climbed the season. We took our measure of the stairs, you for summer and I for autumn reasons. And I wasn't sure whether you wanted me to read the other poem or not. I wasn't sure that having an oral version is going to interfere with the print publication or not.
Oh, you know what? Let's just hold off on that. I'm gonna, as soon as the issue is released, all of the poets that appear in that issue will get an invite to this group. And so we might pick up a couple more people, in which case they'll get to enjoy that, you know.
That's what I figured. I figured I'd go with short and sweet, and then if not sweet, at least short.
Well, I'm so glad you came today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda's iPhone. It always says Linda's iPhone. You have to introduce yourself.
On my iPhone. Hi, Glenn. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Linda.
Bear with me. I'm been on a metaphor kick. This one's called The Roller Coaster of Becoming a Real Boy.
Okay, make sure you introduce yourself first so we can look you up.
Wichita, Kansas. The taste of eggs and oranges, cinnamon scented tea, eating crow, bitter tears and soap. The smell of campfires, melting snow and the ocean. The scent after a light rain on a warm day. Crowded buses, alcohol on angry breath, and sulfur fumes. The sound of favorite radio songs, friendly dogs and baseball games, harsh words spoken between two people, cracking ice under one's feet while standing on a pond, a room being locked from the other side, a small lie which keeps growing with each repeat, the sight of a lit front porch, shadows in front of you on pavement, the first tooth gap of your child, the one whom you love, a huge spider web seen within the gloom, a strange car in your driveway, the feel of cool grass under bare feet, a happy horoscope, and the tickle of your lover's hair. When nothing seems true, betrayal, seeing a party invitation for your friends, but not you, a lost ring or plane ticket, ups and downs, round and round, shedding tears to appreciative smiles, our puppet strings pulled this way and that. It takes both sides to balance the marionette and make us all into real boys. Thank you. This next one is called At the End of the World. The crushing knights wore iron fabric and sat upon high stallions with clicking lips. They rode upon torn ships on a sea of confusion. They steered their sinking marbled ferries into oblivion, this army with no weapons. They will forever be dead in dreams and will convey no more ancient religions. They left cathedral shells, spoils of an immense war, their absurd heresy, their breaches recommending funereal forecast, now trapped in a web of obscurity. The ewe withstood the ram, and the sentient rot of insurrection and darkness eventually dissipated. All that remains is an intrepid philosopher wielding a common sense impulse, standing on an aging banner at this, the end of the world. Thank you.
Wow, strong ending. Ron Lavalette, did you read?
I did not, but I'd love to.
Okay, let's go ahead and put
Okay.
you in the...
Thanks. I've got two. And this first one is due to be published, hopefully next month, in an anthology put out by Jambu Press as a tribute to Lawrence Ferlinghetti. I've got their permission to read it live and online. So No. Lawrence Ferlinghetti, unfortunately, as you know, passed away like in April, and I was really kind of hoping that the anthology would be published before he passed away so that he could see my name on a tribute poem to him. This poem is called Candy. I like to live upstairs from a candy store. Over the years, I've read a few great poems about life amid candy. Just this morning, on my reluctant drive to work, I stopped at the rest area and read all about how Pinsky wakes up with his new love, looks down at the sweet shop's wrinkled awning, watches an early fog lifting to reveal pigeons pecking at rainbowed gutters. And the venerable old Ferlinghetti, ages and ages ago, wrote about falling in love with unreality amid licorice and jelly beans on a gloomy September afternoon in the penny candy store beyond the L. Decades later, sometime in my early 20s, a baby poet, I vowed that I'd pitch a tent outside Munson's Candy Kitchen and live on chocolate and peanut butter eggs. I'm not so old nor blind now, looking back to see that I should have kept that vow. Lawrence is one of the reasons I became a poet, so I'm honored to be included. If I didn't mention, Jambu Press, I think coming out next month. Second poem is a love poem from my beloved Sandra called The Space Between. Excuse me. She sets out for the coast, stops at the notch to admire the mountains, makes note that these are truly mountains, not the soft green, rounded foothills she calls home. Left behind, he comes home from work to an empty house and thinks about her, traveling through the mountains toward the sea she loves, driving along with all the windows fully open, waiting for that first whiff of salt air. 2 or 3 times before the sun goes down, he steps out onto the deck to count and recount the giant hay bales in the field below the house. Miles and miles and hours away, under a just past full moon, the road ceases to unfold before her. She sits gazing out at water, satisfied, having melted her mountains into the sea. Around midnight, before bed, he goes out to stand on the deck and count the bales one last time, the way a shepherd counts his sheep. He stares out at the horizon, thinking about how the ridge lines remind him of waves. Thanks for your time. Glad to be here with all you folks.
Oh, thank you for coming today. I have a couple more, but Trisha Wilson, all the way from Hawaii, and Krista. Didn't forget about you. I know you're right there. All right, so Patrice Wilson. You have to unmute yourself.
Hi, Glenn. Hi, everybody. Let's see here. I want to read. You talk about the news. I don't generally watch the news, but kind of as a rebel news watcher, I have been looking online for the unusual story. You know, the one that does not have to do with COVID or politics or anything like that. And this one was about a very short clip about a buffalo who was walking down the road in Yellowstone Park, and somehow that made the news that day. This is called Buffalo. They knew it well, the ancient people of the land, the way you give thanks to the giver, revere the gift, the giving. Now this one lone bison, huge hooves, tremendous heft, sauntering down a road in Yellowstone Park. Drivers stop, traffic creeps, can make no swift progress, like hunters who can no longer hunt. But some spectators enjoy the sight, voice their own delight, though trapped in their cars, headlights on as if in a funeral procession. In seconds, the video ends, but not the given memory of that ancient source of human renewal, meandering alone slowly, majestically, as if to remind us of all his long-lost fellows. Thanks for that. And then just one more. I'm putting together a book about, with Hawaii poems in it. Poems about Hawaii, poems about my experiences in Hawaii. So I want to read something from that, which I'm working on. Here it is. I've always not enjoyed flying. I kind of the last time I flew, which was years ago, I started warming up to it, and then I had this hiatus from flying. But anyway, this is I used to fly every so often to see my mother in Baltimore from Honolulu. So this is called Night Flying from Honolulu to Baltimore. Sunrise at midnight. Time drops from our jet like a ton of wind. Limbo, a void, a dream, but I cannot sleep. Booming engines batter my brain. Place disappears. We move as if in a tube leading to the moon. Then my plane, like everything that lands, a resurrection in going down, freeing its life from the metal tomb, back to the earth as though reborn after 3,000 years. This new earth, eastern mainland, thick, hot, heavy with summer, its maples and elms, its mosquitoes, all rediscoveries of questionable merit. The inhabitants seem used to them, as I have become, to the quick, happy light breezes on Oahu. This old earth, so huge, no island, its sun a different white yellow star over continental abyss. I miss my home, my feet never far from the sea. The way back, another 1,000 years to my familiars, will not be the same. Limbo will double with leftover lag. I will be limp as wet silk. I will need to retrieve days, nights, dream times, the self's inner and outer earth. And that's it. Mm. Glenn, you're muted.
You're muted, Glenn.
You're muted, Glenn.
I'm so sorry. Someday I'll learn. All right, we're going to move on to Krista, but before I do, is there anyone in here that didn't read? That did not read? Anybody? I don't think there is. Okay, I think we're good. All right, Krista, bring it home.
Okay, this is my first time with this group, and I'm doing this to kind of get used to reading things out loud, and if I break down in tears, so be it. It's just,
Yeah, what's your last what's your last name, Krista?
My name is Krista Genevieve Barris, and I'm in Winchester, Virginia. So I think I'm probably neighbors with the young lady who read about the roller coaster trail. I know all about that. Anyway, so I chose two topical poems. I've had several poems on this subject published, but these two are currently unpublished and looking for homes. My breath summoned. I exhale, rub open a portal with my fist, reveal the sharp elegance of red, the gentle calculated lift of silk that frames the naked superfluousness of lightly layered garments on the her I see. and the violent sheer violence of sheer violence that is this diaphanous woman. I squint through familiar pain, search for my amputated breasts and ovaries, stored somewhere in my brain, and resurrect not the image of dormant soft tissue sleeping in a research lab jar, but of her and how it felt when I ached heavy with milk for my babies who shook, trembled, kicked modest covers, grunted shameless beast instinct, jawing, possessed and slapping my chest, screaming as eager to eat as I was frantic to feed. Sometimes my nipples pleasure pain fled. Sometimes milk showered a showy fountain, a bold answer to the question of existence that prolonged a satisfying singularity. I draped hot secret yen with weightless scarves. My pressured breasts turned crimson, spewed hot anger, spit all over me when it was time to wean, pulsed, puffed up in waves of beat ire and rosy hope, fell flat, filled the void, swapped sweet milk with cancer. A tumor held tight under one nipple like a sick taunt, a tainted cherry that poisoned melted Sunday cream. My breasts were lopped off, chemo course. I looped scarves on my head to hide my missing mane, around my neck to cloak bandages I twirled into elastic ribbons that wrapped around and around my rib cage and squeezed like armless hugs as I spun and spun, tight streamers that juiced me, dried out spaces, drains and scalpels failed to reach. My implants sit catatonic, muffle my heartbeat. Severed nerves, sealed scars, indifference as I rub and realize buffing cannot release a genie from this place. Condensation creeps up when I clear this pain. The second one is called How I Know I Survived. My plastic surgeon says one day he will tap his soft scrub knuckles on the door, enter the exam room, find me sitting on the edge of a periwinkle chair, the back of my thighs sweating on slick vinyl. I will clutch a familiar robe, the clinic's kimono kind that ties in the front. My shoulders will round, but just slightly, and not because of pain, but of ownership. I will be slow to untie the knots, fumble the flat fabric cords, because I will have taken the time this time to secure it. This time, I will blush at my attempts to expose my breasts that he will press and I will feel are me as much as the cancer was that opened the space for him to enter. Upon this cue, he will exit the stage. Thank
Wow,
you.
that was very, very emotional. You know, there's
Didn't
these
cry.
little details. Yeah, good for you. 'Cause I almost did.
No, thank you.
The little details like the familiar robe. I mean, just that word familiar informs the reader about the journey and how many times you've wore that robe along the way. And it just really there's so many layers. It feels so real. And I mean, it is real to you, of course. And as the reader, I guess I'm trying to say it in 3 different ways. You did a good job of relaying that through the art of poetry. I have a couple of emails about the roadside project that are sneaking in. Can you have a picture? Yes, I will take a picture if that'll help you write a poem. And if you want a picture, just email me later today, glenn@lyvers.com or admin@prolificpress.com, and I will be happy to do that. When is it due? I didn't really think about a due date. Let's call it September 10th. Okay, that's a number of days away, so I don't want to wait too long. So that's okay. So that's it. Anybody have anything else? Marjorie?
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Glenn.
You're welcome.
Thank
you,
you for
Dennis.
doing
Glenn,
this. Yes.
Glenn, could I just say something before you finish?
Mary
I
Gunn
noticed
from
that
Ireland.
Sean, yeah, Glenn, I don't think Sean was in your group today, but could I just say that he has a new book out? It's a book of poetry and Japanese style poetry and prose about dementia. The book is called Fragmentation.
Okay.
And there are details of it on his new website. The website is seanwriter.com. That's all one word, SEANWRITER.com.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that.
There are some Japanese related articles on his website as well.
Neat.
Glenn, do you have a date for next month's open mic?
Maybe. Let me just look here. I'm going away next month to visit some friends, and so it's probably going to be Saturday the 18th. I'll make it a. I need to check with my wife, but yeah.
Nope. That's okay.
That's not set in stone. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to make the announcement faster. Within the next week, I'll try to make that announcement so you don't have to wait, because I know that I've been sort of announcing a little bit later in the month. Okay.
Glenn, will the September one still be the one that we can invite published guests from other places? You mentioned that last month.
I did mention that last month. Yeah. Okay, let's do that. So the very next one will be the one where you can invite either someone to just come and listen. Okay, just bring a friend. So somebody that wants to come and listen, or somebody who will read. You're not obligated. Don't miss it because you don't have a friend that you're bringing for one reason or another. But yeah, I think next week or next month we'll leave it open for that. That's a good idea.
So Glenn, next month you can bring a friend. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. Next month you can bring somebody who wasn't invited to the group, and they can you can share your invitation with them and bring them along.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for everything. And thanks everybody.
And Dennis, I did hear you say goodbye and thank you and everything.
Yeah. Thank you, Glenn. This is Linda. Thank you.
Hi, Linda. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody. It was so strong. This is epic. This was a great reading. You did all so
Thank
well.
you. Thank you, Glenn.
Thanks again. Glenn. Thanks again.
You're welcome. Thank you, James.
Be well and be safe, and thank you, Glenn.
Thank you. James, Nicola, thank you for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you for having it. Thank you for doing this all the time.
Oh, it's my.
Thank you. We'll hope to see you next month.
See you guys all next month. Yep. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, Lynette. Bye, Doug. See you, Carol.